weekend edition of the Call Up. It's our first episode of September, which means rosters are expanding. We got tons of prospects and even just intriguing players, maybe former prospects that are getting another opportunity now in September. We're going to break that all down and tell you everything you need to know about all of these players getting a crack from the minor leagues, many of which, Jack, you have seen working in AAA over there in Indianapolis. You've seen a lot of these guys that are, performing in AAA that might be a little bit older, not quite prospects, the Lewis Brinsons of the world. I know you didn't see him specifically, but guys like that, very excited to get into some of those players who I'm very interested to see how they do over the next month.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting, man. And, one of the fun parts of what we do, especially at the end of the season, is the September call-ups, because you've got that nice mix of, damn, I remember him from 3 years ago for 20 games. Or a guy like Spencer Steer, where it's, hey, this is a top 100 guy getting his shot to help a team that is out of contention. Or it's a guy like Hunter Brown, top 100 guy who's stepping in and will provide an impact for a contending team. So there are a couple of ways. And by a couple, I mean, like, you might bump a couple to several or a few. There are several ways that, teams can go about the September call-up. And I think we had a very healthy variety of that.
Yeah, I think that's the interesting discussion here as well, is the ways in which teams can approach it. Because we're going to talk about the Giants, who, they don't really have prospects, upper level minor league prospects, other than David VR, who we're going to talk about. Or is it Villar or VR?
I think it's VR.
VR. That's what I would think. But, sometimes guys. Matt Diaz was one with the Braves. It was Matt Diaz. I'd always say Matt Diaz, and apparently he was very adamant that it was Matt Diaz, who's one of the all-time Marlins killers. And so I'd say Matt Diaz. But
well, you remember Al Avila, the GM of the Detroit Tigers, his son Alex Avila. Avila and Avila, father son, opted for different pronunciations of the same last name.
Serious?
Yeah,
that should be
Alex Avila, Al Avila.
That should actually be illegal. Yes. But anyways, getting into like what the Giants are doing, they want to see what VR can do, but also they give Lewis Brinson a crack. And we're going to get into like some of the numbers and stuff there. But that is a smart thing to do, right? Because Yermin Mercedes, they've given a look. Like the Giants are great at identifying some of these guys that maybe didn't succeed in their initial environment. Right, we look at like a Lamont Wade, which really worked out for them over the last couple of years, though, it was a bit of a disappointing year this year. But guys like that, even Austin Slater, other options that, they kind of take after maybe they don't reach expectations and try to help them get there. And it looks like Brinson could be an opportunity to be another example of that, or it doesn't work out and you move on. And I think this is the perfect time to do that as you fall out of contention. But I want to start with some of the higher profile names. And, the way it timed up with our last episode, we put one out just before Gunnar Henderson got the call up, and then we haven't had an episode since then. So we've talked a lot about it on the Just Baseball show, and everything Gunnar's done is well documented, and he's going to be a top 3 prospect in our season's almost over, and our top 100 update. But it was really awesome to just kind of see him impact the game in so many ways. Talk about Corbin Carroll and a similar type of effect that he has, beating out an infield single or forcing an error because he rushes the infield, but then also smacking a ball, 105, 106 miles an hour into the gap and running for the races. And then we also saw Corbin Carroll score from first, and he really kicked it in gear, and you could see him fly. Gunnar Henderson, not quite, the elite runner, but the guy can really run. The power is ridiculous. And now we're seeing a very polished hitter for a 21-year-old as well, and a young 21-year-old at that. Gunnar has shown the speed on the bases, already swiping a bag. We've seen him hit the ball hard. We've seen him make impressive swings. There was one swing that really stands out to me. It was, I believe it was a Shane Bieber, like slider, or it almost looked more like a cutter, kind of breaking it on his hands. And he was able to just get the hands in, fight it off, and shoot it into the shallow outfield for a base hit. Like, that's stuff that really impresses me from a 21-year-old. And then, of course, we did have the mammoth home run as well. He made a great play at shortstop. He's showing us that he can really be that 5-tool player, but he doesn't need to be that guy for the Orioles right now.
No, he doesn't need to be. And the beauty of the Orioles situation is they're a lot better than I think they were expecting to be. Obviously, they're a lot better than anybody was expecting them to be. So what you're asking Gunnar Henderson to do as a September call-up on an expanded roster is, that thing that you were doing in the minor leagues? just keep doing it. Like,
Yeah.
you're not asking him to have this out-of-body experience. You're asking him, hey, you were our hottest hand. Ride that hot hand here. We're going to put you in positions to succeed on a team whose clubhouse energy is through the roof positive right now. Just be you in here. The other thing that jumps out about Gunnar Henderson, he's played 3 games at the major league level. That's 27 innings defensively. He has played second base for 9 of them. He's played third base for 9 of them. He's played a very good shortstop for 9 of them too. He can play anywhere. Feels like he's comfortable playing anywhere. Anything to get that bat in the lineup, particularly against right-handed pitching, right?
Exactly. He's 5 for 12 to start off his career while playing 3 different positions. And
now,
also,
he hasn't walked yet, so he's probably a bust, right?
Oh, no. Yeah. He hasn't walked because he's putting the ball in play every time, which is unbelievable. But yeah, and that's the thing. He's also a patient hitter as well. And you will see that kind of shine through. But what's amazing is the confidence that they have in Gunnar defensively to move him all over the diamond. And I wanted to really emphasize this when he first got promoted, or when we were hearing, rumors of him potentially being promoted soon, was over the last couple weeks prior to him getting bumped up to the major leagues. They were moving him all around in AAA to see what he can do and how he can handle it. He was playing second, he was playing third, he was playing first, and still playing short. I wanted to make it clear to not have that mistaken for he can't play short, because that's not the case. This kid can play an above average shortstop at the big league level. His arm's great. His range is good. His actions continue to get better. Sure. Could he be a little bit rocky time to time for a 21-year-old at shortstop in the big leagues? Yeah, look at Bobby Witt this year. I don't think anybody's swearing off Bobby Witt as a defender, but it's been a bit of a choppy season for him. Gunnar can play all over. Obviously, with what Mateo's giving you defensively and what he has actually done offensively in the second half.
Mateo's a good baseball player.
He's a good
Don't
baseball
get it
player.
Twisted.
Yeah. Don't move him off a shortstop. That's an elite defender, one of the best in the game at that spot. But there's certain times where you want to mix and match or give Mateo a day off or whatever. It's not, a matchup that you like for him. You can go ahead and put Gunnar at short. But what I like about this situation is I don't feel like, as crazy as it sounds, it's so different than, maybe what the Mariners were hoping from Kelenic when they brought him up. Because I look at Gunnar Henderson and he doesn't have to do that much. He's basically a super utility guy for them down the stretch here. And what they were getting from second base is so terrible. With all due respect to Rougned Odor, 30th in Major League Baseball at -6 F4 from the position. That's because of horrible defense, hitting a $180 and not really adding any value on the base paths. Gunnar, even if he's a 750 OPS guy down the rest of the season here, down the stretch, with the defense and speed he brings, that will be much, much, much more valuable than what they've been getting from the second base position. So I think Gunnar is going to really give them a boost, but I expect him to be better than that. My only question, as you kind of teased, as you let it back over to me, is left on left. He's still not totally there yet, which, man, okay, sorry. The one thing that the 21-year-old can't do is really comfortably hit left on left. He still was fine. I think mid 700s OPS in the upper levels of the minors. That's more than competitive, but 34% K rate. That's something where, now that the Orioles have some other pieces, they bring Jesus Aguilar in, maybe you can protect him from some of the tough lefties from time to time. And that's kind of what the Cardinals have done with Nolan Gorman. I don't think it's as dramatic as that, but they could probably shelter him from time to time, but that's about it.
Yeah. You make the comp to what the Mariners were hoping for with Kelenic. I want to go back a little bit because I know you were a baseball freak at this point, like I was. 2013, you remember what the Red Sox did with Xander Bogaerts?
Oh, yeah.
That kind of feels like what's going on with Gunnar, right?
If Gunnar did that, I wouldn't be surprised. Right? Like,
so
if Gunnar did what Xander did that season, I wouldn't be surprised.
I mean, so taking you fully back to the Xander Bogaerts experience in 2013, right? So 2013, Bogaerts had this incredible year between double and triple as a 20-year-old. So 56 games in Portland, he had a 909 OPS, had an 822 OPS in 60 games in Pawtucket. What the Red Sox did at the beginning of September, Bogaerts became that September call-up. He was a late 40-man ad. At that point, again, anybody on the 40-man roster could come up in the month of September. He was that ad. He was a very patient hitter. He figured something out. He was a high OBP guy in the minor leagues. They plugged him in for 18 games in the regular season. They said, get as comfortable as you possibly can. They win the World Series in 2013. he was a guy at the bottom of the order that was working a full count every at bat during the postseason because he was an advanced, high OBP, keen eye hitter. The rest of it came later. Bogaerts did not need to be the star that he is now. Bogaerts was the young top prospect that did enough things well to positively impact a baseball team.
100%.
That's exactly the trajectory that the Orioles want with Gunnar Henderson.
Absolutely. And I mean, that is exactly how it went down. I don't remember who he kind of replaced or took the ABs from or kind of, but the larger point is here is that Gunnar Henderson is going to be that kind of automatic upgrade, but also he's capable of doing things that Rougned Odor is not capable of doing, right? Like what Gunnar Henderson can do if he's having a great game, if he's having one of his Gunnar Henderson games, can win you a baseball game. I don't think Rougned Odor is ever really going to win you a baseball game. So that's the other side of it. And I think we saw that with Bogaerts, even though he was not always the middle of the order bat in the early going that rookie season, he was still having some games where he could have been the middle of the order bat because he's capable of that. The difference with these young guys is finding the consistency. And, we'll see. Some guys find that consistency right away, but Gunnar's flashes are going to be better than anything they would have got otherwise.
Give me a guess as to who Xander Bogaerts displaced during that 2013 September.
2013?
How many 2013 Boston Red Sox can you name?
Dude, not many. Like 2013.
They won the World Series that year.
Yeah.
That was the worst of first, 2012 to 2013.
Yeah, that was Steve Pierce MVP, World Series MVP year. Or was that 18? That was 18. That was 18. Jeez, yeah. I don't know. I have no idea who he displaced at that point.
Bogaerts displaced Stephen Drew and Will Middlebrooks.
There you go. That's all you need to know. Okay.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Point made.
That starting five, that rotation, Lester, Lackey, Ryan Dempster, Felix Dubront, and Clay Buchholz. With Koji O'Hara closing games.
World Series is all about catching lightning in a bottle, man. And maybe these Orioles did. They also brought up DL Hall. But I don't know if we're really expecting DL Hall to make a major impact. What I do like is that if he's on, he can legitimately shut it down. They've been using him as a bullpen arm in AAA. It's a one-man in Jennings and two because that's the way that he can help the big league team, the rest of the way here. And it's been a bit of a mixed bag for him over his last few outings. The last outing he made in the minors before getting brought up a few days ago, he went 1 1/3 scoreless, walked 1, struck out 1. These are all in AAA. But just before that, went 1 1/3 and gave up 2 earned runs against the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp. And also before that, though, goes 2 innings, hitless ball, no walks, 4 Ks against the very same team. The thing with DL Hall is it's not about who he's facing. It's about how many strikes he can throw, and his biggest hurdle is himself.
Yes.
But if he's throwing strikes, he could be a top flight big league reliever right now. But that's a big if. And I just don't know if I have a lot of confidence in him being able to be much of an asset for them, really, other than maybe a 6th inning guy. If you like the matchup against a lefty, like that's all. I don't really see much more from him right now. In the future, I think DL Hall could be great, but it's kind of an interesting spot to put him in.
Yeah. I want to use the term lightning in a bottle again, because if he catches lightning in a bottle, like in a vacuum for one outing, just think about it. Like if DL Hall wakes up feeling great and he goes up to the coaching staff in Baltimore, he goes up to Brandon Hyde, the manager, and says, I'm feeling awesome right now. Like if you need somebody in the 4th, I'm your guy. He can bridge you 3 or 4 innings of lights out pitching.
That's a good point. And that's a role that I think he could serve pretty well. Starting pitcher gets knocked out early. DL Hall kind of comes in low pressure. Might be able to carve 3 innings, 5 Ks, and everyone's like, what the hell?
Yeah.
And like that is very possible because when he's on, it's really like he's unhittable. But the walks are the issue. And those are the outings maybe you put him in. You're already down 4-zip in the 3rd. You want someone to try to keep you in the ball game, but you don't want to deplete the bullpen. Like that's where you maybe go to DL Hall. And that's selling him a bit short at this point, but it's just where he's at, right? He missed a lot of last year with the elbow stress reaction. He's improved at times. It looks like the command, and then he takes a step backwards. So we just have not seen the consistency there, but the stuff is phenomenal. The fastball command has improved, but overall he just needs to continue to refine that. You can't walk almost 6 batters per 9 and be successful.
May I be brutally honest for 1 second?
Sure.
It does not matter how electric your stuff is. You will never be considered for impact innings on a postseason team if your team has to doubt your ability to throw strikes.
Of course.
What changed for Shane Baz, right? Like, why did he become a postseason starter last year? Because he went from a guy that was walking 5 guys per 9 to a guy that was walking 1 guy per 9.
Yeah, to one of the best K to BB rates in all of, professional baseball.
Having the stuff is one thing, but you need to be able to bunker down and throw strikes and not beat yourself. DL Hall is beating himself way too often at the AAA level. The Orioles are not going to put him in positions where if he beats himself, it screws them.
Yeah.
The Rays knew that they could put Baz in positions where he was not going to beat himself. They did it with McClanahan too. McClanahan was not going to beat himself. Grayson Rodriguez, when he's healthy, never going to beat himself because he prides himself on painting the corners.
Yeah.
DL Hall, the fastball, the changeup, the slider, they're all gross, but he can beat himself. That's why we're not looking at him in the same way.
100%. And he can get there, but it's not going to be this season, obviously. And we'll see how things go during the offseason. Last thing on the Orioles, you mentioned Grayson Rodriguez. Great news. He made his rehab start over in high A with the Aberdeen Ironbirds, and a very, very, very short pitch count. Obviously, they're going to be very careful with their crown jewel and the number 1 pitching prospect in all of baseball, but a lot of good things there. Obviously, if you look at the stat line, doesn't look great. He went 1 1/3, 1 hit, no runs, walked 2, struck out 1. Don't care. He was sitting 96 to 98, topped at 99, mixed in all his pitches, looked good, felt good. All reports were good. Love to hear that. He's going to continue to ramp up. It was just 31 pitches, but fastball topping at 99. He seems like he's doing well. And we'll see how they handle him. But regardless, I'm just glad that we're seeing him pitch again prior to the end of the season and kind of see him back. And we'll know that he'll be full-fledged, ready to go by next year.
Yeah. It's fun, man. G-Rod show. We've got the J-Rod show. Let's get the G-Rod show going.
So let's fly through the rest of these call-ups because there's a lot of interesting roster moves, and you can follow along on the article, which is at justbaseball.com. It's also linked in the podcast description, where you can see every single, Jack put this together, did a great job. You can see every single player that was brought up as rosters expand for every single team. We'll go through some of the other guys, I'll just fly through it, but we'll spend more time talking about the prospects or the Lewis Brinson type intrigue players. Diamondbacks don't have much for us. It's really Wilmer Defoe.
You don't get off on Wilmer Defoe? Come on,
I'm good. I mean, decent numbers in triple, whatever. Keenan Middleton, he gets bumped up some good numbers as more of a reliever.
He's been a quadruple A guy for the last 5-6 years. And then Kyle Nelson was really good. That's an injury guy. So Middleton and Kyle Nelson were both reinstated from the 15-day injured list. Now, let me take you behind the curtain here for a moment, because Ryan Finkelstein, the managing editor at Just Baseball, we were talking about, what we wanted to do for the September call-up. And originally it was going to be a divide and conquer type thing. I rolled in from Knoxville, Tennessee. I do football stuff with Ball State. Rolled in from Knoxville, Tennessee. Got back to my apartment in Indianapolis at 4 a.m. on Thursday night / Friday morning. I get up at 11:30. I call Fink and I say, I'm just going to go to this coffee shop and rip it. No communication needed. I'll just put it up. And we just knocked it out, alphabetical order. Let's get it. So
love it. Good. Love to hear that. Congrats on the grind.
Thanks, man.
You're built different.
Here's the thing. If I was built different, I would be getting up at 4 and not going to bed at 4, Yeah.
No, I know. We're kind of built different in in a weirder way, because I was up till 3 looking at some clips of Brewers prospects as I iron out the rest of that top 10 too. So yeah, but that is a grind. That is impressive. I was shocked that you did that. And honestly, now that you heard, listener, Whoever is listening to this podcast, now that you heard what Jack just went through to put this together, go check it out at justbaseball.com.
Blood, sweat, and tears to get this article out. I'm telling you, even though there's hardly any words, it's just names.
It's just names and stats.
Called up.
It's just monotony. That's what makes it even more impressive, honestly.
I
was more impressed that you
didn't
put that many words. Like it was just straight names and stats, like a psychopath. But the D-backs not that exciting because they brought all their guys up, right? Stone Garrett got brought up, then Corbin Carroll, Alec Thomas was already up there. All their dudes are up. I would have liked to have possibly seen Brandon Pfaadt, but I can understand them just wanting to kind of let him keep rolling at the AAA level, and that's fine with me.
So, I was looking at, and obviously like it's dependent on the environment that he's in. He's in Reno right now, but I was looking at the pitchers who have allowed the most homers in minor league baseball, and Pfaadt is very high up there. I think it's 24 homers that he's allowed so far at the AAA level. Nobody is close to sniffing Parker Dunshie's 34 homers allowed in Las Vegas so far.
Poor guy. I mean, the environment stinks out there, but all I'll say with Pfaadt is he throws a lot of strikes and bad, tough environment. When you throw a lot of strikes, you're going to be susceptible to the long ball. I'm okay with it though, because I like that he is confident enough to not nibble. He throws a lot of pitches in the zone, and he gets a lot of whiffs in the zone. Every once in a while, guys are going to ambush you and time it up. And I like that he's not nibbling and not compromising the command, because that's a big strength of his. He only walks 5% of batters. So you love that from Brandon Pfaadt. I'm okay with the home runs. I'm not worried about it because he scatters them, he manages them, and it implies that he's not afraid to attack the zone. And I think he'll be better off. I know it's not a pitcher-friendly environment, but I think he'll be better off just being in the big leagues, even though it's Arizona. And yes, he has to pitch in Colorado. He's going to pitch in a hell of a lot of other places too, especially with the new schedules and the way you play kind of all over the league. I think Brandon Pfaadt will be just fine in that department, but it is an interesting talking point for sure.
Shout out the Bellarmine Knights. Brandon Pfaadt from Louisville went to Bellarmine. Is he a top 100 guy?
Yes.
Pfaadt?
Yes, okay. He absolutely will. I've been very, very impressed with him. Braves, nothing exciting really. Orlando Arcia gets the opportunity, and Jesse Chavez, which we talked about in the Just Baseball show, has bounced around and been traded, I think, 15 times. But good to see him just continuing to push forward and have a big league career. Red Sox, Connor Wong, interesting because they trade Christian Vasquez. Connor Wong is a catcher. And he came over in that trade, that Mookie Betts trade. So there's always going to be kind of that negative, just association with anybody, because Jeter Downs came over in that deal. Verdugo's been great in the second half, but Connor Wong is a really interesting player because he has exciting power. He's shown flashes of really being an exciting offensive piece. He can play other positions. I'm not too bullish on his catching ability, but he's not a total liability out there. I'm intrigued by Wong, Jack. I mean, listen to these AAA numbers: 288, 349, 489 slash line, a 22% K rate, 7.6% walk rate, 15 home runs. It's good for a 121 WRC plus. And again, he hasn't come out of nowhere. He put up great numbers in AA with the Dodgers in 2019. He put up decent numbers in AAA last year with the Red Sox after the trade, slightly below average, but still hit 8 homers and, showed some flashes of things. This guy can swing the bat, and I think he could be a potential utility catcher, unique profile type of guy. I'm actually very interested to see how he does through September here.
Yeah, when Connor Wong wins the American League Player of the Month and the Red Sox have a perfect month and make it to the postseason, we can officially say that the Red Sox won the Mookie Betts trade. Fair?
Yes. Done. Done.
Wong feels like the third string catcher for the Red Sox. And with some AAA guys, like that's how you have to look at it. Are you a soccer guy at all? Like Premier League, anything like that?
Yeah. Mostly because of FIFA.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm sure doing the FIFA stuff, European soccer teams like Premier League, you've got to fill out the team sheet for every game. So you got your starting 11, you've got your reserves, or your substitutes, but then you also have your reserves. So guys that are not dressed for that. You typically have 3 goalkeepers, right? You've got the starting goalkeeper, you've got a substitute, and then you've got your reserve guy. That feels like what Connor Wong is, right? He is the third string catcher. He's not a prospect anymore. He's just the guy. If anything goes on above him, he's going to slot in and be the second string.
Yeah, well, and here's the thing, though. What happens if he hits? Because, again, this guy has power. Defensively, I agree. He's kind of like that third string emergency catcher. But this year in Worcester, they pretty much exclusively played him at the catching position. He wasn't great throughout 24% of batters or of base stealers. I don't know how the defense was. I'm not going to pretend I've watched Connor Wong's receiving and blocking. But they kept him as a DH almost every single game. He didn't start behind the dish because they wanted his bat in the lineup. I think he's made 2 or 3 appearances at second base. But he is capable of playing around the diamond. The bat is solid. I'm very interested to see what they would do and how they would handle it if he does swing it well. And maybe do they try to continue to develop him as a catcher, as he is a good athlete and he's not a liability back there. It'll just be interesting to kind of see how they handle him.
Yeah, I'm not sure how they're going to handle him, but we shall see. And then who is the other guy? Edward Bizzardo, who came
Edward Bizzardo. Yeah, I don't know much on him, honestly.
Yeah.
You got much on Edward Bizzardo?
Nothing. Good
numbers in AAA. 34 or 37 appearances. He also made 4 starts. Pretty good strikeout numbers. Doesn't walk a ton of guys. And get a chance to see what he can do. The Cubs. They don't call up Matt Mervis. We figured that was going to be the case because why have a self-imposed 40-man crunch. We how it is. There's a lot of guys that they need to protect from the Rule 5 draft, and bringing up Matt Mervis kind of takes up one 40-man spot that you don't have to yet because he was a 2020 draftee, so not Rule 5 eligible for a little bit. Mervis, side note, has been spectacular. Homered again yesterday. He has, I think, almost 70 extra base hits now this season, 104 driven in. It's one of the best minor league seasons I think we've seen from a guy that was not a top 100 prospect in a while. He'll get his crack. I think he can break camp with them next year. Yeah. I think the reports are already that Mervis is going to be in the Arizona Fall League, and he's going to keep breaking there. He's going to force the Cubs to pencil him in as the opening day starter. But a big reason why they did not bring Mervis up was I think they did not want to risk losing Jeremiah Estrada. That's an important arm for them, and a guy that could have been a 40-man casualty if they continue to make the roster crunch a little bit tighter. Estrada's been really good this year, man. Have you seen much of him?
I haven't seen him in person, but I've been keeping close tabs on Estrada. And this is a guy that has climbed like nobody's business. Estrada has an electric fastball. Yep. He works off of it with a really good changeup. Estrada is a possible shutdown reliever for the Cubs, which is cool because they're running out Sean Newcomb right now, who, they're running out Newcomb and Anderson Espinosa out of the bullpen. Like, the Cubs are in dire need of back-end bullpen guys, like high leverage bullpen guys. They're going to get Cody Hoyer back. Hoyer's got closer of the future type makeup. Estrada is another guy like that who is just electric and could become a setup man or a closer in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, so a guy that the fastball sets the tone, which I love. High spin, high velo, ton of riding life, and he dominates with that pitch, and it sits 95, 97, topping it at maybe 8 or 9. And he'll throw that pitch 70% of the time, man. Like it's almost like Rich Rodriguez when he was really working, but with a way better fastball, and he can get away with it. And he's a reliever, so it's fine. I love that about Estrada. You talk about fast climber. The guy was pitching in low A last year. Yeah. Low A. And now already getting a crack at the big league level. So great stuff. I think will be a good big league reliever, and doesn't walk guys at like an egregious clip for a guy that throws upper 90s and is more of that bullpen profile. So definitely an interesting arm and a guy that should be a part of their future for sure. At just 23 years old. They also bring up David Bodie, which whatever. I mean, yeah, I'd rather see Mervis, but again, I understand it's going to be a 40-man crunch there. Chicago White Sox.
Let me just shout out real quick the stable of pitching prospects that the Cubs have put together again, because I know we did this after the deadline, but I mean, this is a farm that has Estrada, who's got bullpen capabilities, Cade Horton, who they just drafted, Jordan Wicks, Ben Brown, Jackson Ferris, who they just drafted. Who else? You got Wisniewski, you got DJ Hers, you got Killian, you got Daniel Palencia, who is a freak
Yeah,
of
he throws like
nature.
102.
He's a freak, dude. And then
Yeah.
you've got other guys like Nas Mule, who you just signed, Luke Little, Ryan Jensen, Cole Franklin. It's incredible what the Cubs have done in 2 years, pretty much stockpiling arms after they realized they were good in the bat department.
And they needed him so bad. Another guy that's been a really awesome story is Javier Assad. And I get to watch him throw when I was in Double-A, taking a look at Pensacola earlier this year. And Assad, man, like, he throws like 6 different pitches. I wrote him up after I saw him throw. I was like, this guy's interesting. Nothing's plus, but 6 legit different moving pitches in all different directions with great command. Assad's been great in double, got the call up to triple, was the same there, and then got a couple looks in the big league so far this year. And the underlying numbers aren't great, but you know what? He threw 10 innings and only allowed 1 earned run. So Assad looks like he could be a swing man and a potential depth arm as well. So being where they were, pitching wise, and how desperate they were for arms, this is a far cry very quickly from where they once were. And there's a lot to be excited about with the Cubs. The White Sox, maybe not as much, which is crazy to say because going into this year, it seemed like those two teams were nowhere near each other in regards to the short-term and long-term futures. But the White Sox, they bring up Adam Hazley and Matt Foster. What say you, Mr. White Sox?
Nothing much. Walk-off fielder's choice from Jose Abreu after a walk-off hit by pitch was overturned. That's my entire focus on the White Sox. Like, they don't have much to bring up. I mean, what are you going to do? Sosa again? I don't know. Carlos Perez. Perez is already up. Lenyn Sosa, when he's got up, has really struggled. Hazley provides some depth for you. Romy Gonzalez is already up. What I was talking about last night, though, Davis Martin, after Joe Kelly opened the game, Davis Martin went 5 scoreless, I want to say, with 3 punch-outs. He popped up out of nowhere this year. And I know that we've talked about Davis Martin before, but Martin is a guy who has gotten 10-ish starts at the big league level now, and nobody really knew who he was coming into this year. He was a 14th round pick in 2018 out of Texas Tech, but he was shoving in Birmingham, got the bump to Charlotte, looked great in Charlotte, got the call up. He was always like the guy that started game 2 of the doubleheaders in Cleveland because Cleveland plays a doubleheader every weekend at home. It feels like, I think he's got a spot on a major league roster from here on out.
He screams serviceable swingman. And I know that sounds like negative content. Like, no, he screams a swingman that I trust.
Yes.
And if you have to make some starts with him, he can give you 5-6 good innings. Yes. Sure, he's by the end of the year, the ERA is going to be in the mid-4s, but that guy can give you valuable innings, and I think give you some flashes where he can give you quality starts. So Davis Martin's been some nice, a nice kind of developed and pop-up prospect for them. And the White Sox system is actually much improved. It's not great, but going from one of the worst, I will say I love what I've seen from Colas. Colson Montgomery looks great. A lot of their other guys are starting to tick up. You got Brian Ramos, who's looked really good. Like they've got some guys that I think are trending in the right direction for them. And the system development wise has improved itself over the last year, but they definitely need some more arms.
So real quick tangent. Do you remember the name Chris Getz?
Mm-hmm.
Chris Getz is the farm director for the White Sox, and he has spearheaded this thing called Project Birmingham.
Yeah, that shit's stupid.
Okay, so the essence of Project Birmingham is every prospect of note is in Birmingham now, playing in Double-A. That means Colson Montgomery, who's not ready for Double-A baseball, he's really good, but he's not ready for Double-A baseball, is up there. Jared Kelly, Andrew Dahlquist is up there. Oscar Colas is there. I think Yoelqui Cespedes is still there. Pretty much every prospect of note in the White Sox system is in Birmingham
because
at the
he thought it was like a cool collaborative environment for the top prospects to be together. That was
let's create this super team. I don't know how I feel about that, but again, I just kind of feel like I'm a traditionalist in that sense.
No, I think it's pretty stupid. Cool. There's certain aspects of that, like maybe pitching wise, it could make some more sense. But when you're looking at someone like Colson Montgomery, who's putting up good numbers in high A, there's only 37 games there. And, I would have liked to have seen him start to tap into some more power. And that's something that you do as you kind of get more comfortable as a hitter. And he gets the bump up to double. And it's been a little bit rough for him so far. So, I mean, Colson's going to be fine, but it's definitely a challenging development process for him based on that Project Birmingham. But
so weird.
Let's go to the Reds. Somebody that really showed out in his first game. Spencer Steer gets the bump up. Also, Fernando Cruz, who I'll have to rely on you for a little bit more on Cruz. But let's start with Steer, because he could not have had a much better first big league game. We've talked a lot about him since the trade went down, and then we also did the Reds episode, and so we've done a few different things. But this guy is going to be a piece for them for a long time, because he's never going to block a prospect, even if he's a 120 WRC plus guy, or if he's a 110 WRC plus guy. You can move him all over the diamond to accommodate the rest of your lineup. And I just love the way he plays, man. We saw him crush a homer. He's got power, especially since he's added that leg kick, which I've talked about, but it hasn't come at the expense of his ability to put bat on ball. And then we saw that with the double he shot the other way, right? Like there's two different Spencer Steers that we get now, which is great, which it used to just be contact. Now it's, I can turn on one pull side and hit it, 430 feet, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to take that 2-0 fastball, on the outer half and drive it down into the right center gap or down the line in right field. Like, he is a complete hitter. He is a high floor prospect who is going to be a very solid big leaguer for a long time.
Yeah. We've talked about Steer a lot. Listen, I'm a big fan of Spencer Steer, and I caught him for his last couple of games before he actually got the bump, because the Indianapolis Indians are actually in Louisville right now seeing the bats. Steer played third in game 1. He played first in game 2, and then he got the bump. There's some defensive versatility there for Spencer Steer, and the bat is going to play. Great American Ballpark. Listen, folks, I handed out Jonathan India for National League Rookie of the Year last year, because that is a bat that plays in a very, very hitter-friendly ballpark. All I'm going to say is, if the odds are really enticing, you should take a long look at Spencer Steer next year for National League Rookie of the Year.
There's a lot of John India in Spencer Steer, and I think we'll see it translate. That'll be a safe. Really, I think Steer should be one of the favorites if I were making the odds. The only way that he loses is if you have, some of these other rookies that go nuclear, and that's the problem. There's so many ridiculously talented rookies now that those safer picks that used to always almost feel like a lock 5-6 years ago, because rookies always struggled, a little bit more challenging now. But Steer is a guy that I think is going to make a pretty seamless transition to the big leagues. Fernando Cruz, the Reds are starting to find really solid bullpen arms and develop really solid bullpen arms. And it looks like Fernando Cruz could be the latest edition of that.
So Fernando Cruz, I'm trying to find this from John Sadak here, who's the TV voice of the Reds. He tweeted out this note. Here we go. Yeah, he retweeted it from Mark Sheldon, who writes for the Reds on MLB.com. From the Reds and Elias Sports, right-hander Fernando Cruz is 32 years, 157 days old. When he plays, he will become the oldest Red player to make his major league debut since Pat Scantlebury pitched against the Cardinals on April 19th, 1956, giving you a glimpse into what has gone on in Fernando Cruz's baseball life. Again, he's 32 years, from Bayamon, Puerto Rico. He was drafted in the 6th round by Kansas City in 2007. Fernando Cruz was drafted as a hitter. He was not a good hitter in minor league baseball. Career .232 guy with a .561 OPS in just over 1,000 plate appearances. So that was starting as a 17-year-old in 2007 with the Royals in the Appy League and at the Complex. He makes the switch to the mound as a 21-year-old in 2011. With the Royals, gets released, bounces over to the Cubs. Then he spends from 2016 until this year in indie ball and in ball away from the United States. So the Puerto Rican Winter League, the Dominican Winter League, things like that. Mexico. This dude has been around. 500 minor league games, 200 games in foreign countries, making his debut at 32 years old and 158 days old. Fernando Cruz, I saw him a decent bit this year with Louisville. He was the closer for the Louisville Bats. This dude saved 23 games at the AAA level, which is crazy. That's one of the 5 best marks in all of minor league baseball. He was one of the true closers down there. He's got a good mid-90s fastball. He's got a nice breaking ball. He's a gamer. And listen, when you go to hell and back 10 times like Fernando Cruz has done in his major league career, it is incredible to see that guy finally toe a big league rubber.
I love it, man. This is also why I love September. Is you get to see guys like this, and
or like a Winton Bernard,
Winton Bernard, exactly. But I think Cruz can hang around.
Yes.
You know, the numbers are obviously pretty solid. A 2.89 ERA. You talk about closing out ball games. He doesn't need to be a closer at the big league level. He could be a 6th, 7th inning guy. Also mixes in a cutter that has some good numbers around it. So this guy could be solid. Mid-90s fastball, solid cutter, solid breaking ball, and even mixes in a splitter. He's figured something out, and I hope he can hang around. But very awesome to see somebody like him make his big league debut. And guess what? Guess what he did in his debut? An inning, no hits, no runs, punched out 2. It's a pretty solid start to your big league career, and I'm sure a very emotional and pretty surreal experience for him and his family, I'd imagine.
Yes, I think so.
So Cleveland Guardians, Ernie Clement, whatever. Cody Morris, also. Whatever. Yeah. Don't have much to say on that, really.
No.
Morris, 21 1/3 innings, a 1.69 ERA. Ernie Clement, I think he's rocking a 2.22 slash line this season. But Guardians, again, another team that they kind of called up the guys they need to call up, and no one else is really gonna make a major difference for them at this point. I think they kind of are who they are. Rockies, no Rocktober this year. So nothing crazy. We already saw them call up Michael Tolio. We talked about that. He crushed one the other day. But they bring up Alan Trejo, Chad Smith. Not much there. Chad Smith is pretty solid this year. Trejo has been solid as well. We'll kind of see how those two guys do. Don't have much on them. No. Tigers. Interesting. 2 struggling prospects, one high profile, one of note, but not a good year for him after having kind of a breakout year last year. Spencer Torkelson, who even in AAA has not been great, but I think they just kind of want to get him back in the big leagues to just kind of, I guess, just finish the season with the big league club and then just kind of reevaluate in the offseason and work on things. Ryan Crowder was kind of a surprising promotion, given that he has not been really good in AAA this year. But I just don't know what to say about Torkelson because it's been rough for him in triple still. It wasn't like he went to triple and just started crushing. He was not great there either. It's probably a bit ambitious to assume that Torkelson will just get it going here in the final month at the big league level.
Malpractice calling up Spencer Torkelson right now.
You think so?
Why the hell?
Yeah, I don't know. I got nothing for you because I would rather him get things going in triple. And he was showing some signs of life, over the last, I think it was like 18, 20 games.
It was like a sub 700 OPS, dude. Yeah. Like, what are we doing here? You send him down there to get confidence, and he's obviously not confident putting up the slash line that he did down there. I don't understand it.
No, I mean, dude, it's definitely a head scratcher. You look at the last 15 games too. This is the interesting thing for me. You look at the last 15 games. He's like starting to put it together, starting to look solid, right? I think it was 278, 409. The power's still not there though, 407 slash line, but at least walking a lot, 127 WRC plus. He's starting to get things going. Why interrupt that now with a greater challenge? I don't totally get it, but we'll see how he does. And it's been interesting the way the Tigers kind of handle some of their guys. And I don't know if I totally agree with this move. Obviously you don't. And I hope Torkelson kind of figures something out at the big league level, but it's just not been good for their rookies.
There's a glaring omission here. 28-year-old Josh Lester with Toledo. Lester is a corner guy that can play in the corner outfield spots as well. He can kind of play all over. He strikes out a bit, but he's got a 773 OPS, 35 doubles, 24 pumps, 81 driven in this year. That's coming off of a year last year where he hit 32 homers between double and triple. So that's a 28-year-old guy that has proven that he can hit for power and not strike out a billion times in the minor leagues. September for a bad team is the time to give a guy like that a shot.
Absolutely.
Instead, you're calling up Ryan Kreidler, who is hitting like 215 after injuries hampered his front half of the year. And then Spencer Torkelson, who is so far in his own head, I guess, or just not performing.
Yeah, I think they kind of want to see what they've got with Kreidler, and I believe he's Rule 5 eligible, right? So
there are so many dudes that are Rule 5 eligible. I was just talking to Mason Martin, who was a high school draftee in 2018, and he's Rule 5 eligible. Yep. I was like, wow, that snuck up on us.
Yeah, it's wild. And so Kreidler, I believe, also is Rule 5 eligible, and he's still probably someone that would get picked, right? Because he gives you some defensive versatility, shortstop, third, second, puts the bat on the ball enough. I again had a better year last year, had a really nice stretch in AAA where he hit 304, 407, 519. Even though the numbers aren't great this year, swipe 15 bags, 8 homers, is getting on base at a 352 clip, probably a guy you have to protect. So for that reason, that's probably why we saw him get the bump up, but I'm not expecting him to do too much. We talked a little bit on the Just Baseball show about it, like Hunter Brown, no brainer to bring up, especially now with Verlander down, and with the injury. They also bring up Yainer Diaz, who is a very interesting bat, can catch for them as well, can play first base. But man, the guy really raked this year in the minor leagues. I talked to some guys in the Astros org, and they all said the same thing. Yainer Diaz may be one of the most impressive hitters we've seen. That's interesting because they just say he makes it look so easy. So he's a guy that could make that transition to potentially getting up to the big leagues and hit a little bit. I just don't know what his role would be, given that they have a lot of similar type guys. Hunter Brown, more important here because of what he's done. 2.55 ERA in 106 innings in AAA this year, 134 punch outs. Fastball is electric. Slider is in the low 90s and sharp. He'll probably be a reliever for them, but could be a multi-inning reliever. And if you need some spot starts over the final month of the season, he can give you that.
Yeah, I think so too. The Astros were on cruise control to the postseason, and they went and got a guy that can hit. Like, hey, let the pitcher hit occasionally and DH for Martin Maldonado, right? That kind of feels like what you could do with Yainer Diaz.
Literally.
No, but I mean, they just added another good hitter, like their best minor league hitter. And then you added your best minor league pitcher as well. So they just improved.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a good situation for the Astros, especially timing wise. It seems like they just kind of had Hunter Brown in their back pocket all year long. Most other teams probably would have brought him up even earlier with the big leap that Brown has made this season. Very obviously their top pitching prospect. Dodgers, they bring up, obviously they return Kershaw. They bring Vargas back up. Very excited to see Miguel Vargas. I think he could be a more productive player than Justin Turner, but obviously Turner has the postseason pedigree and a lot of different aspects to him that are important. But Vargas brings you a little bit of everything. High batting average, some sneaky power, some sneaky speed, solid defense. He's going to walk a ton. He's not going to strike out. That's a guy that I love, that can rove all over the infield as well. Can play in corner outfield also. So he's can plug in and give you quality at bats, even if he's only playing twice a week. I do think Vargas is the perfect guy for this role, but I will be an above average big league regular when he gets the opportunity.
Dude, I'm a sucker for the 300, 400, 500 slash line. Oh my God.
As you should be. With low Ks, with a sub 20% K rate. Like there's very few safer profiles, man. Like he's been my favorite prospect in that system for a long time, even though there might be better prospects. I love how safe Vargas. Like if for my Marlins, if they were making a trade with the Dodgers, that's who I want, because I know that the Marlins can't screw him up. Like he is just such a good hitter and just a ball player.
Dude, I mean, like just running through like each number that we put in this write-up at justbaseball.com, 113 games, durable. That's some of the most games played in minor league baseball so far this year. Hitting 304. Nothing more needs to be said. Hitting 404, 100-point jump in OBP, obviously walks. Slugging 511. Okay, yeah, really good. 32 doubles, freak, 17 pumps, power's there. 82 RBIs, run producer. 16 for 21 in the stolen base department. Good. Can make things happen with his legs. 71 walks, 76 punch outs. Doesn't strike out a lot, walks a lot. This is like
and played several positions.
Yeah, like
it's picturesque.
If you went to his Fangraphs, his Baseball Reference, his Savant, whatever you do to look at prospects, there's nothing that you look at here that's like, oh, that's a concern. I might have to go watch and corroborate with my eyes. Like, he is Yes.
That's why I was so there's probably no ranking that ever floored me more than one of the outlets that put Miguel Vargas 10th recently, like as recent as this season in their Dodgers top prospect rankings.
Yeah,
I you can figure out who did that, but that kind of floored me. I was like, whoa. That I know the Dodger system's good, but whoa. Anyways, you look at the Angels, they bring up Ryan Aguilar.
Walks a lot.
Walks a lot. Has had some power. It's mixing some stolen bases. Interesting. Definitely just a classic guy to get a look at. Get some more ABs too. How old is he? 27, 28, 28, 28. I just looked it up. That's fine. This is the time to kind of see what you got with those guys. He struggled in the early going so far since being promoted. Probably won't be a big league piece, but he's earned himself the opportunity with 15 pumps, 11 bags, 280, 427, 517 slash line to, kind of see a little bit more. Nick Eaton over with the Royals as well. Nate Eaton gets a chance with the Royals and Daniel Mengden. Anything there? I know you see that team a little bit more.
There's nothing. No, like Nate Eaton hit some home runs, steal some bases. Daniel Mengden had a cool mustache when he was in Oakland. Like nothing to report.
How about the Marlins, man? Really
What's up with that,
stuff.
man?
Really exciting stuff. They bring back Brian De La Cruz because why not? And Jeff Brigham, who I like Jeff Brigham. He is a good bullpen arm with electric stuff. It's just been about the health for him. And I mean, you put the numbers there. 43 innings. He's punched out 69 this year. Like Brigham has great stuff. It's just been health for him. So I'm actually excited to see Brigham out of the pen. And the guy's been through hell and back over the last couple of years with his injuries. Brian De La Cruz, he did everything you could have asked when they sent him back down, crushed in AAA over the last couple of weeks. But I just don't really want to see him play this year. Like I want to see other guys. I'd almost still rather Burdick has been not great. I'd rather see Burdick or Gerard Encarnacion or whoever, but it's Brian De La Cruz that's going to get another look with the big league team.
How about the guy that has 22 pumps and double? Just anybody.
Yeah. Griffin Conine. Yeah, why not? Why not? I'd love to see what Griffin Conine can do now that he has 35 homers in 140 AA games dating back to the promotion last year. Obviously, the K's are
not in triple.
The Marlins always do this
we
kind
can
of
move
thing.
on.
Yeah, but defense has been great for Griff too, which is exciting and give him a shot, see how it goes. But we'll see how the Marlins decide to handle that. But yeah, he did hit 22 yesterday. That was fun to see. Brewers, Luis Perdomo and Esteury Ruiz. We knew Ruiz was coming. Yeah. What we didn't know was that Garrett Mitchell would precede that. I talked about Mitchell a ton in the last episode. We don't need to get into that. But Esteury Ruiz, I'm writing up the Brewers system right now. That's going to be our Monday episode, probably. Breaking down the system and breaking down the rankings there. I'm a big fan of Ruiz's. I really, I talk about it in the write-up. You and I have talked about it. He is maybe one of the most impossible guys to peg. Any guy with that profile is impossible to peg him. And by profile, I mean more of just like the history, right? Being kind of a non-prospect, fading, moving positions, not doing a ton offensively. Like those guys tend to kind of just disappear after being around for so many. He's played over 500 minor league games, but he's made some tangible adjustments. Looks fantastic this year. And he still is just 23 and he's moved around AA, AAA, another AAA team. And the numbers have remained consistent. I think that he's going to be a solid big league regular that can give you game-changing stolen base ability and will continue to develop in the outfield. Remember, he moved off of the infield. I just don't know what his role is. Maybe he platoons a little bit with Garrett Mitchell. He does crush lefties, like ridiculously crushes lefties. But I am interested to see how they use him. But guy's been great, man. 70 bags.
70 bags in 85 attempts, right? Or 83 attempts?
83 attempts.
Yeah, I mean,
he's running every time. Legit every time.
Like if he's got 70 bags, he's got 70 bags. Yeah. Esteury Ruiz is going to do something for the Milwaukee Brewers. I don't know what it looks like. I don't know how he factors into the future. Also looking at the Hader deal, Robert Gasser made his AAA debut last night in Nashville. I don't know, man. That deal looks really good for David Stearns right now.
It does. And we were ripping him. We were like, what are you doing? Why are you trading Josh Hader? But they may have seen something. They didn't like the trend. Cash in now. Gasser is going to be a big league starter for you. Ruiz is going to be a big league piece in some capacity. And also, if they make a playoff push this year, you have your Gerard Dyson in Esteury Ruiz, except imagine that he can at least hit at a big league average level.
Yeah.
Like that's what's exciting about Ruiz. Yeah.
I mean, Gerard Dyson, Terrence Gore, they kind of did the same thing, right?
Yeah.
It's postseason pinch runner. That's what Minnesota just did too, right? They got their postseason pinch runner up.
Yeah, Billy Hamilton gets brought up. And you know what? Hamilton was a great base runner with the Marlins when I was watching him a little bit up close this year. Defense is great. My goodness, he's the worst big league hitter out there. Like he is the so singular worst Major League Baseball hitter. I honestly don't think that Terrence Gore would be much worse if they gave Gore at bats. So I don't know why they're still giving Billy Hamilton at bats. You should just fully use him as the base stealer. But Billy Hamilton back with the Twins. They also bring up Austin Davis, who's already pitched a ton. The big leagues. He was claimed off of waivers from the Boston Red Sox.
Was it Herb Washington, the A in 79 or 80? That
the track runner
appearances. Yeah, the track runner that was just a pinch runner and
and he stunk. He got like picked. He never played baseball in his life, and he got picked off like 5 times and was like 7 for 14. He was the most useless addition ever, which is pretty funny. Another guy that was up with the Marlins, it's kind of wild. Devin Marrero, who Marlins would lose their minds every time he got brought up instead of a prospect. I think Mets fans are probably not losing their minds because the team is good, but it is surprising to see Devin Marrero brought up over Mark Vientos because Vientos has been spectacular in the second half of the season, but they opt to bring up Marrero. The only thing I can understand here is Guillorme's still out, right?
Yeah.
It's the defense, right? Because
Beatty's got a thumb thing too.
Beatty's out.
Done. Yeah.
Beatty's probably done. I'm assuming it's more defensive priority, right? Because Mark Vientos is going to play you a subpar third, a subpar outfield, passable first base, or he plays great defense at DH. But, it's just that's kind of the issue. And I don't know if the Mets need a bat that bad, right? They're one of the best offenses in baseball. That's the Mets defense there. But all I'm going to say is this about Mark Vientos. We've been high on him for a long time. He's been a top 100 prospect for us since just baseball has existed, and even back to the Locked On MLB Prospects days. But over his last 40 games, Jack, in AAA, 320, 378, 553 slash line. It's a 144 WRC plus and only a 25% K rate, which is, if he lives there, he's going to be just fine at 9 homers as well in that span. Vientos is it's all clicked for him again. It's important to remember he's still just 22 years old. He's been around for a while. He's a young draftee, but it's probably more of a defensive thing because they have Vogelbach. And I think Vientos could kind of give them what Vogelbach is giving them offensively. And they traded for Vogelbach. So they're going to go with the defensive guy in Marrero.
I saw a video. I think their name is Bat Boys on TikTok.
Yeah. Those kids do a good job.
Yeah, they do a good job in the DMV. And I saw them talking to Vogelbach, and they asked him what his pregame meal is, and he said acai bowls.
I did see that. That was not what I was expecting.
No, I was not expecting that at all, dude.
We were profiling.
We were totally profiling on Daniel Vogelbach. But shout out Vogelbussy for wanting his acai bowls.
I love it. How about the Yankees? They bring up Oswald Peraza.
Yeah.
And, I've been so annoyed of Yankees fans just like, why won't they bring up Peraza? I don't know, because they are not sure that he can immediately give them more than IKF is giving them. Maybe that's a little bit harsh. Maybe he will. But I think they kind of just had no choice at this point because the offense has been so bad. The team has just been so bad that they need to inject some life. And Peraza, like, he's well inside the top 100 because of the glove, because of the speed, and because of the solid bat. But I don't think Peraza is going to give you much more than what you're getting from Oswaldo Cabrera. Peraza, over his last 20 games has been solid in AAA, 116 WRC plus. Not going to hit for a ton of power, but he's got it in there. You can hit 20 home runs or so in there, but he's not going to walk a ton. It's more defense, speed, and solid bat. Do they really need that? Probably not, but they're so desperate right now. They're going to call anybody up they can. I'm excited to see what Peraza can do, and he does have game-changing speed on the base paths, and he has tapped into more power than he ever has. So I am interested to see how he does.
The the other guy that they called up, Marwin Gonzalez, or not called up, like Marwin Gonzalez was activated off the injured list. So you have Marwin Gonzalez, Oswaldo Cabrera, and Oswald Peraza on the same team. Don't they all kind of do the same thing?
Yes. And Peraza is the best version of that. So that's why
it probably goes Peraza, Cabrera, Gonzalez.
Oh, for sure. And Peraza's ceiling is so much higher, right? I mean, Peraza's ceiling could be, a really well-rounded short, almost like what the Braves have got from Dansby Swanson this year. Like that is what I think you can get from Peraza. But he's not there yet. Like he's also young. He's just turned 22. He's just tapping into the power. The base stealing has been impressive, 33 and 38 tries, but I think this is going to be a big jump for him. I really do. Yeah. Another guy that made the jump, Ken Waldichuk, fought command issues a little bit in that first start with the A's. Obviously, one of the centerpieces in the deal to get Frankie Montas. But Waldichuk, I like what I saw from him. He's been spectacular in the minor leagues this season, a 2.84 ERA in the upper levels, 21 starts, 95 innings, 137 punch outs. He's just been a lot of fun to watch pitch this year. And was able to dance out of some jams and turned in a pretty solid start for his big league debut. 4 2/3, punched out a handful, walked a few, but I thought he was solid.
I didn't get a chance to catch it. But Waldichuk is another guy. Waldichuk and JP Sears being in the same rotation in Oakland has to kill Yankee fans. But Waldichuk, I thought that was a great get for him.
I think he's gonna be a middle rotation starter for them.
Deal. Yeah, man. I mean, he screams 3 or 4.
And I think he'll show flashes of a high end 3. That he can rack up the strikeouts. And we saw kind of the stuff. I mean, 7 whiffs on the fastball, which topped at 97, 5 whiffs on the changeup, which I love, and then 3 whiffs on the slider. He kind of had a little bit of everything going for him. And when he hit his spots, he was nasty, and the fastball had some ride to it. The Phillies, another former Yankee, I believe, right? Donnie Sands gets brought up, catcher. Yeah. Sands has been great this year, hasn't he?
I think so. Donnie Sands, he's got a cult following. I just think it's funny that the Phillies call up a guy in Donnie Sands who was slashing 308, 411, 441 this year, and Vinny Natoli, who was fine, like a mid to low 3s ERA in triple in 32 appearances. But Donnie Sands and Vinny Natoli coming up for the Philadelphia Phillies, you don't even need to know the numbers. That just makes sense.
I love it. I absolutely love it. But Sands swinging it well, and it's always another arm. I mean, they need all the bullpen arms. Their bullpen's been solid, but I need to see as much reinforcement in there as possible. 2 guys you could speak to pretty well, I think. Yeah. Recently acquired Johan Oviedo, and then also Cal Mitchell, who I know you like. Didn't go great for him first time around, but that's very common. I do think Mitchell has a good chance to be a big league bat in some capacity. But I'll kind of just leave the floor to you on those 2 guys.
Yeah, so we'll start with Oviedo, who it was Oviedo and Malcolm Nunez, who's in AA Altoona right now, who were the return for Jose Quintana and Chris Stratton in that deadline deal that sent Quintana from the Pirates to the Cardinals. Oviedo is really interesting, and he was an interesting dive before his first appearance at Indy, because when he was up in the big league, when he was up with the bigs, he was a really good reliever. When he was in Memphis, he was a mediocre starter. So the question was, is he going to be a good bullpen arm, or are you going to keep trying it? And Oviedo, his first appearance for the Indians came out of the bullpen. His second came as an opener, and his third kind of came as a starter.
Interesting.
And then he gets this bump up. But Oviedo, he punched out the side in his first appearance, I think, in his first inning with the Pirates. And then, he scattered 3 walks. I think with 3 shutout against Alek Manoah in Toronto. I think Oviedo can be an okay starter. I
like the reliever. But I think he can be a good reliever.
I think he can be a really good reliever.
He's got one big league. He's got one big league secondary pitch, and it's a slider. Yeah. So I just see slider, hard fastball, and
reliever.
Just ride that.
The beauty of what Oviedo can do is he can be a 2-3 inning reliever. And that's what the Pirates are building right now. They want a bunch of guys doing that. Tyler Beatty is doing it at the big league level.
And with success.
With success. Oviedo is doing it here. Cody Bolton in Indianapolis is another guy that is doing that. Mike Burrows is going shorter spurts, although he should be a starter because Burrows can be a really good big league starter. So we'll see what the Pirates want to do in terms of the pitching front, but I think they're trying to just create a whole bunch of Swiss Army knives. Yep. And Cal Mitchell, he's going to carve out a spot somewhere. He's too good for AAA. Like you mentioned, he was not good, very low 200s with the Pirates. He was not slugging that much at all, but 63 games with Indianapolis so far this year, slashing 339, 391, 547. Like there's no better hitter in AAA that I've seen this year than Cal Mitchell. He's been incredible.
No, and the data backs it up, man. I mean, so what's interesting is the chase rate's high. And I think that's kind of what gets exposed at the big league level, but then he can get away with in triple. And then gets exposed at the big league level, and then you go back to triple and you get away with it. But he hits the ball hard and he doesn't whiff. That's a good combination usually. It's just the chase rate. So if he gets that under control, I agree. I think this is a big league regular potentially here. He was a good athlete.
Yeah, and problem is, the problem is like there are so many okay outfielders for the Pirates.
Yeah,
like Brian Reynolds is really good. He's got a spot, but then you're juggling Sawinski, Cal Mitchell, Kanan Smith and Jigba, Travis Swaggerty. There are so many, Bly Madris, so many of them that only two can play alongside Brian Reynolds at any given time. And when the infielders from AA come up, where's O'Neal Cruz going to play? He's probably going to move to a corner, right? So then that eliminates one. 40-man is going to be very telling for the Pirates.
I agree, and I think they're going to have to make some moves. And I think you got to look at the upside here. I think Cal Mitchell and Jack Sawinski are the two guys that, if it all kind of clicks for them, Sawinski more volatile, but they have the dynamic athleticism, and impact that you can dream on a bit more. Those are the guys I'm probably, holding on to. But Smith and Jigba is safe. I think the injury, obviously, and missing time this year definitely hurt him big time because he has to prove it over time, whereas some of these other guys can show some fun flashes. Padres maybe had the least interesting two guys to get brought up. They bring up Matt Beatty, who could be, a fine piece for them, but Reese Nair, why do they need arms that bad to bring up Reese Nair? Reese Nair, 28 games this year, 77 and 2/3 innings, a 6.95 ERA, 50 walks.
Dude, I don't know.
9.3 hits per nine.
I don't know.
Whatever. Reese Nair was a highly regarded prospect too, which is interesting. It's still I think is on every top 30 list, but the numbers have not been good for him. Giants, we talked about. I like what we've seen from David VR. I'm excited to see him get another month of ABs. And Lewis Brinson, man, 299, 356, 574 slash line, 21 doubles, 22 homers, 63 RBI, while playing stellar defense in the outfield. We know Brinson can do that in triple, though. We know that. But still, this is a very good season that earns him another look, and I am rooting for this dude. He is one of the best dudes you will meet in professional baseball. He is so talented, was a big disappointment in that Yelich deal, and I really hope he finds a second life here in San Francisco, an organization that seems to identify these talented guys and find ways to help them succeed.
Are you brinsexual?
Absolutely.
I think I am brinsexual as well.
Love it. Love it. For our people on Twitter, they were amped up. I saw Peter Pratt was amped up about the little bleeding single for Lewis Brinson's first AB with the San Francisco Giants. The Mariners, another guy that I will always root for because I feel so bad for how many times he's been traded, and he also seems like a good dude. Taylor Trammell gets an opportunity again. He's put up some solid numbers in the minor leagues this year. I honestly, that's underselling it. His 22 games in AAA have been ridiculous. His numbers in the big leagues actually this year probably been as good as we've seen them overall. Banged up at times, he's missed a lot of games, but he's still kind of young. He's 24. He can play good defense. He can run a little bit. We know he's talented. It's just we've been waiting for him to also make that jump from triple to the big leagues, and he just hasn't quite done it. I don't know what his role is with the Mariners, but it's a great fourth outfielder for you.
Yeah, it's a really good fourth outfielder. I just don't want him to get traded again, but it might be better for him if he gets traded again. So
it is better for him to get traded, but I also don't want to see him get traded again. That kind of stinks. I feel bad for him. Yeah. Cardinals, tweener. Ben DeLuzio
flies. That's
really why
pinch runner.
that's why it's him and not Burleson, right?
Yes.
Because he's serving a role of speed, and they don't really care if he doesn't get a ton of ABs. 30 for 36 on bags. James Nail.
He's a fine. He's like a vet. He's just a veteran reliever. He's an older 20s reliever.
Reserve the bullpen in September. Kind of just
exactly. Just add another guy that eats innings. Real quick on DeLuzio before we move on though. Ben DeLuzio is a Florida State Seminole.
That's why I knew it. Yeah. That sounded familiar.
Florida State baseball under Mike Martin, the Hall of Famer Mike Martin, they would time all their guys first to third. The program record holder before Ben DeLuzio took it when he was at Florida State was Deion Sanders. He's that fast.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So that'll be fun. They got their pinch runner speedster guy. And he swung it well this year too, though. So if you have to give him some ABs, he can give you some decent ABs, hopefully. Maybe the guy that gives you the best ABs in minor league baseball is Jonathan Aranda. And Jonathan Aranda gets an opportunity with the Rays. Thank goodness. This guy's done nothing but hit every single year, basically. He is a plus hit tool, above average power that he's tapping into now. Lacks a bit of a defensive home, and I think that's part of the reason why we don't see him more highly regarded or even really getting as many opportunities, but playing a lot more second base and playing at a decent level. Played a lot of third this year, which I thought was interesting as well, and didn't play, too poorly there either. Aranda's bat is one of my favorites in the minors. So many guys that I'll, again, another one where I'll ask guys in the minors, who's the most underrated guy you've seen? I've received Jonathan Aranda as an answer several times because of how easy he makes hitting look. 318, 394, 521 slash line with 18 homers. That's going to play. And that's basically exactly what he did last year as well.
Yeah. Aranda, it's the Rays, man. Aranda and Manzardo are in the same organization.
Kyle Manzardo, that's in another episode. We could spend 20 minutes talking about that guy. Matt Whistler activated. Thank goodness the Rays are starting to get some guys healthy again. Whistler, great bullpen arm. That's definitely great for them. The Rangers, Jesus Tinoco.
No.
He kind of bounced around a little bit. He throws hard. Could be a solid bullpen arm. Nick Solak. Okay. Hopefully something clicks. Blue Jays, Casey Lawrence, really good season. And then Bradley Zimmer, really bad season.
I texted you guys, how the fuck, pardon my French, how the fuck does he have 3 RBIs in 86 games in Major League Baseball? It's actually
one of the most insane things I've ever seen.
That takes effort, dude. It's incredible. 103 plate appearances, 3 RBIs.
Yeah. I mean, that's rough, but he's getting a crack with the Jays because they need a lefty back. they've been doing anything. Raimel Tapia, any way to just try a lefty bat in the fold a little bit more. We'll focus on Casey Lawrence because they kind of need pitching. Lawrence is old, right? 34, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
But the numbers have been great. He's looked good in the big leagues in flashes, and numbers in AAA were really solid. So hopefully another depth arm for them. And then to wrap it up, I don't think we missed anybody else. The Washington Nationals, they call up Tres Barrera and Mason Thompson.
I like Barrera.
Yeah. Barrera's solid. I want to see, what he can do, kind of back up, keep it Ruiz DHs, see what he can do behind the dish. But yeah, that's about it. I think we hit everybody, right? I'm trying to make sure I'm double checking. You can also check the article out. It's linked in the description, justbaseball.com. But yeah, those are pretty much all the moves. Would have liked to see the Marlins call up Jordan Groshans, given that they just had the worst offensive season ever. They don't really make that move. Who's the Cubs, Mervis, we would have liked to see. Any other teams, any other snubs? We talk about Vientos Mets, but I can understand it from a defensive lens. Any other teams that you feel like maybe could have called somebody up and they didn't?
Yeah, I mean, the
Jays, what was the Jays? Did they call up Moreno? No, right? No.
They didn't call up Moreno.
I understand they're kind of stock, like kind of just packed to the brim there. So I can understand them not bringing him up.
Yeah, I mean, the only ones that jump out to me really are Alec Burleson,
Which again, where is he playing? So I would love to see Burleson, but with what Lars Newbart is doing, it's kind of hard to find a spot for him.
Yeah. Josh Lester for Detroit. He deserves it over Torkelson and Kreidler. I think that's it, honestly. Like, I don't think there was really anybody else that jumped out to me like that.
No,
I saw Kyle Muller just got back up.
Yeah. Most of the teams kind of just did what we were hoping and did what we thought they would do. The Royals had a couple bats I was interested in maybe seeing, but the Nick Loftons of the world just not quite there yet. So I like all the moves that all these teams made, and that's why September is so fun. You don't see the prospect tugging as much and or the service time manipulation as much. But
yes,
that'll do it for today's episode. Going through the September call-ups. On Monday, we will have the Brewers farm system write-up, probably our final farm system write-up before the top 100 drops. Several top 100 guys there, and a few guys that I have shifted a bit and am much more bullish on as I've done my further dive, and I'm excited to kind of get into those prospects and sell Jack on some of them. Any final thoughts, Jack, before we head into the weekend, college football?
I don't think so. I just checked the halftime score of Iowa and South Dakota State. 3-3.
Oh, barn burner over there. All right, well, enjoy minor league baseball, college football, whatever you do on your weekends. We will talk Brewers prospects with you on Monday.
Go Gators.
Yes, sir.